Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser. It's Wednesday. Back to being the number one dad. And number two is here. What's happening, Gordo?
Not much. As you can see behind me, my office in the back room here has been dismantled and put in a box. So
the stuff is getting real.
Yes, yeah. The scary part is the packing and the moving. Also deciding. So my wife and son are staying here for until he finishes school. So they're gonna come down in like June, July. So
Okay.
like figuring out what I'm gonna pack and what's gonna be my fault that I accidentally took that they really needed. That's been very difficult.
Well, the stuff in the background is pretty safe, I guess.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That was the first thing to go. It was the first stuff to go because like, let's start with what I know they're not going to be missing.
Yeah, I can see her like going through the house and be like, "This stuff, yeah, you can take all that." So, yeah, I mean, at least you're kind of like used to it. Well, not used to it, I guess, but you went through, although it was painful as hell, a moving scenario once. I have not moved in, holy mother of God, like 25, 26 years. I would be afraid. So I would just give up. Like, I would just like, it's just not, I'll just walk out with nothing and I'll be like, this is the best I can do. I will be terrified of just like packing a house full of 25 years worth of accumulation.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you know, like when we moved back from Arizona, I spent maybe like the first 6 months going like, we don't need anything extra. Okay. Cause I was like, we don't, let's keep it very minimal. We're going to be a very modern, minimal family from now on. And then, 4 years later, there's like 4 different little cars that people have bought him, that he sits in and goes around the yard in. And I'm like, all right, we can keep 1 because I'm not moving 4 because that's going to be a U-Haul in itself. So
it's going to be some huge garage sale. Yeah, man. Good luck to you. So when are you? Yeah. So if you're in the Texas area, heads up because Gordo is coming your way. But you're moving March, right?
Yes. My first day of work is March 3rd or 4th, whatever that Monday is.
And then, yeah, the family is coming once the school is over. Man, we were talking about last time we got together because for those of you who don't know, we're both in Chicagoland. Well, I mean, we're not considered Chicago. I'm in the suburbs, and Gordo's living next to Unabomber out in the in the farm area over here, even more further out. Last time we got together, we're like, yeah, man, we got to do this more often. And then
that's why I decided to move.
Remember to take the Ducks, says Thursday. Yeah, you gotta. So yeah, the Ducks are not coming.
No, well, not with me originally. So they will be because I'm gonna live the bachelor life. I've got a studio apartment in downtown Amarillo, and so then when they come down, we'll be looking for like a farmhouse.
Oh, okay. So Seven's gonna be monitoring what you're doing through these live shows.
Yes,
probably there's gonna be like people like, who's that in the background? Like people walking in the back and stuff. Well, here's the deal. I know who's not gonna be helping you move. Because he did hurt himself. So we're counting on Havertz to lift some boxes for you. That's not going to happen. So they're in Dubai for this mini thing. I guess Alan was talking about it and kind of telling us about it on the panel show last week or the week before, that they did it before. And I was like, well, how did that work for you guys last time? Like he was like, it worked great last time kind of a thing. So they go to this camp and I guess like he like tore it at practice or something like that. So we'll get to the game today because it's important as hell, but this is like huge for the title race.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to bring up the Plymouth game because I know that you've spent a couple of days and a couple of podcasts already dissecting it, but like you look at a team that basically has guys that start the game, but like the stars aren't in, and you lose a couple stars, and that's the kind of performance you get. So this is definitely a big blow to their title races.
Yeah, I mean, they're already hurting, missing players. I don't know when Saka is coming back. Was it like April or something like that? I know he's coming back. He's not out for the season.
Right.
But they were already hurting. And really, when they didn't sign anybody in the January transfer window, which I still find shocking, really. And I'm sure, Arsenal fans are even more pissed off now because they were already pissed off then. I'm sure they're even more irate now. I was kind of shocked, but at the time, I guess the lesson to be learned out of it was Arteta really trusts in Havertz and, like what he's going to do and stuff like that. And honestly, he's one of those guys. I can't stand him, by the way. He has become this unlikable dude who like causes trouble, but then runs away when trouble gets in his face and stuff like that. He's become like an unbearable figure. I don't know how the heck that happened because I don't think he was like that in Chelsea. I think
No.
he mirrored Arteta on the pitch basically at the end of the day. But he does a lot for them. I mean, as much as I can't stand him, he does a lot for them. And I know, everybody talks about his finishing and stuff like that, but this is a team that struggles to create. And really, at least he was good in that area. He was a threat when the ball was coming into the box and stuff like that. But they're losing a lot in this ordeal.
Yeah, and every like most of their wing players, like for them, I guess like Trossard he's definitely stepped up his game. I know like when Saka went down, he was not really having a great season, and everyone was a little worried, but he's kind of filled those boots. But the more and more wide players you lose, the less likely that you have to be able to rotate around. And some of our best plays, or like when we really light a fire in the middle of a game, is Mo Salah drifts into the center, Diaz goes center and like kind of creates a little bit of extra space behind them. And so you lose the ability to do that when you start, just Xing out names on a team sheet.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have a domestic cup, so it's just basically ultimately Champions League. And I don't know, really depends. And that kind of brings us to games like today's game, right? Finally, the game in hand, as I put in the title, is here, and of all games is the Merseyside Derby. But a win from this, at one point, I mean, they will almost have to, as we keep going, make a decision when the Champions League games come, especially if nobody comes back. Do you think, if you put the pressure on by making it 9 points and stuff like that, when do we bring it to a point where Arsenal says, hey, yeah, I mean, we'll try to stay in this race over here, but we got a Champions League game on Wednesday?
Oh, man, that's a tough one because, I mean, you look at our next – we have 5 games in 15 days.
Yeah.
And they are not easy fixtures. Everton, their form's unbelievable. It's also midweek. We're coming off a bad loss, and they lost as well, but I think ours may hurt a little bit more. It's the last time that we're going to meet them at Goodison Park. That's a big one for them. And we got Wolves, who found a little bit of form, who definitely can score. And then what we got? City – Villa, City, and
yeah, I was
Newcastle.
trying to put that on the screen. Let me get that on the screen for you. Yeah, because I was asking people yesterday what they thought we should get and what we will get out of it. Only got a few answers. I mean, I think I'm at 11 myself. Where are you at out of these 15?
Man, 11 out of 15. Just this is always the toughest part of Liverpool season. Always, like this is the time of year when, like, for Spurs, it's always like December where they collapse. For like City, for some reason, can go through from January to May and almost not lose games.
Yeah,
Liverpool have that weird February into March. It's always that. It messed us up last year. I mean, at the end of February, we were all still talking about the quad, and here we are again, knocked out of the FA Cup. Which we probably shouldn't have been. And we've got a very tough run of games. So 11 out of 15, I would be very happy with, because I can see the other thing you have to understand is all those teams, maybe except for Wolves, are going to be gunning. It's going to be different. It's their big game in the season, right? For us, it's another game. We're not really too concerned with any of those teams in terms of their table places. But for them and their fan bases, especially like City away, Villa away, those are games that those teams are circling. And it's not just a regular game for them. If we don't come and we don't play the way that we've seen us play in a few games this year, where, the Real Madrid at home, City at home, if we don't play like that, they're going to take points off us. And so I think 11 out of 15 would be phenomenal. I'd take that.
Phenomenal, really. Like, I thought 11 out of 15 was actually, I mean, you already gave 4 points. But, I mean, I was putting the graphic yesterday. I think Arsenal has a much easier run. They'll have a game in hand once we get past the Villa point. They will have the game in hand. They do go to Forest, and I think that was the same weekend we're going to. I'll try to pull up that graphic too. I think that's the same weekend we're going to City. I think they're going to Forest away, which obviously is a very, very tough game, especially now with their additional injuries and stuff like that. Yeah. Do you think that whole Newcastle game lost a little bit knowing they have the final to really get at us, and this is whatever. I mean, obviously, we don't know where they're going to be in the standings. They might be going for Champions League, most likely going to be going for like a Champions League spot and stuff like that. But I felt like before the final was for the League Cup was against Newcastle, this was a bigger game. It just feels like for them, it might be a testing out game, because that's what the one they really circled, obviously, is the League Cup final.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the much bigger matchup between the two teams is going to be the final. But I don't think that, especially because it's only in 15 days, there's five matches. Everybody else is also playing a good number of matches. I'm pretty sure everybody almost plays, it's either 3 or 4 games in the next 15 days. So it's not like we're the only one with this congested fixture list. So we get to that 4th game against City, and we've dropped. I really feel we're going to lose one of those games. And so you're dropping points, and especially if it's against like somebody that they're going to be battling to get into 4th place, that game still becomes big. It's still big for a different reason, because they're going to be battling for Champions League places. And if City get the 3 points off us, then that game becomes even bigger, because then they need the 3 points to stay with City.
Yeah, this is the one I was trying to pull up over here. I mean, Leicester away really is a cake matchup for them. They probably say the same thing, to be fair, about our Wolves at home matchup. The Villa matchup just got a lot trickier. Didn't it? Like suddenly it just feels like it got a lot trickier.
Yeah, I don't know why either. I saw that and I was like,
because they have the signings that you can kind of tell. Like I watched them a couple of days ago, and you can kind of tell there's a new, like there's Asensio and stuff like that. There are some players out there that can make things happen and actually make use of the talents out there as well. Not only like, oh, they signed the striker, but there's some quality that they signed over there that can change a game and can. I mean, there are moments in the game, right? I mean, we always talk about this where it's still 0-0, and they're like, "Oh, good thing they didn't make most of that chance," because, or like, "Oh, Ali makes a huge save" and stuff like that. We go back to things like that when it was 0-0. So they have some players that can maybe use those moments and get a goal or something like that. It makes life difficult. I think that's why I'm looking at it and I'm like, it just became a lot more difficult here. Arsenal cut off the goal difference down after beating Leicester 6-0 on Sunday. Just because it's away, I don't know if it'll get that ugly. And I don't know. You would think, I mean, let me ask you that. I mean, with the Havertz injury, do you think that's going to be an Arsenal team that's even more like, man, like, it's just not meant to be? I mean, I'm a 49ers fan, as you can see. Like, it was one of those years where it's just like, God, man, it's just not like injuries, like personal tragedies of players, like they're like kids dying, and it was just like, this is just not a year. And do you think they get that feeling where they're like, it's just not meant to be? Or is it more, I know sometimes people make it a rallying galley, like, only we believed in ourselves, and it's like it becomes like a rallying cry and stuff. But do you think that will be it? Or is it more of a, God, man, can anything else go wrong? It's just not meant to be.
Yeah. There's no fan base in the Premier League that loves to bring out, they bust out those mini violins every week about, it's like, it's the most. And you know what it is? It really is Arsenal Fan TV. They're the ones that I really feel have perpetuated that, because like when Arsenal were god awful after, Arsene Wenger probably stayed a couple of years too long and overstayed his welcome. They basically made their name from that, from like just the belly aching from fans. And now you've got this fan base that literally beat City. Yeah, we're gonna win the league. Lose to Everton. We're done.
I like that a little bit too, though. Like I see. I mean, I know you were in the comments the other day as well. I mean, good old Aaron. Thank God he's not here this morning, so we can have a peaceful morning. But I mean, it's like there are people like that in our fan base too. But I think you're right. Has Arsenal Fan TV almost like it's a whole new generation of fans they've like basically raised. They're like, this is how emotional you have to be. Ups and downs, people, ups and downs. And I
think inflatable
impacted more. Yeah, I mean, maybe, because we have fans like that too, but it just feels like Arsenal has more, and Arsenal Fan TV can't take credit for.
Yes.
It's almost like they're in a lab making these fans and just mass producing them.
Yeah. Well, then they push it out. Like, there's always going to be fans that are wishy-washy in every sport. I mean, like, I'm sure that you follow all the 49ers fans forums and stuff like that. I'm sure there's fans in every aspect. It's just like that seems like the mantra. Like, whereas we have, like, it's very split. Also, like, our team and the managers we've been lucky enough to have don't also fall into those categories, are very positive all the time. Like, we deserve to lose because we deserve to lose. And, you know, it was our mistake here and there. And it seems like also, like, Arteta even falls into that, like, yeah. And it just, like, the whole foundation is wishy-washy. And I really can't pinpoint a team in the league that represents that more than Arsenal do. So I do feel like it is, you know, that the more injuries they get, it's very much like, I saw that this morning. I think like the first tweet out on it was like 8:15 or something like that about Havertz. And I went to our group chat that I have with Kelly and a couple of friends that all support different teams. And like, I was about to say like, hey, Havertz is done for the season. And my Arsenal friend had already been like, oh, thank God we didn't sign anyone in January. You know, he beat me to it. So like, it's.
I mean, hey, let's face it, man. I mean, people, especially our fan base, with the signings we make, they would get, you know, yeah, they would lose it because people already wanted us to sign people. So if we had a serious injury right off the bat, I mean, you would think within these 5 games, I mean, we already had Gomez in the FA Cup game. And doesn't sound like, based on what Slot is saying, I was reading Trevor's comments, went over there, because Klopp did make a lot of excuses. But I think the thing with Arteta is, I feel like Arteta is that man, and I think this is what more Arsenal fans feel too, that he's the manager that changed the culture, right? Brought it to a place, but they need somebody else to get him over the line. That's how it looks like, because it's almost like he can't totally shake it off, but he's changed a lot, to be fair. I mean, if you look at before Arteta and now, he's changed a lot, brought him to a certain level. But there's, in any sport, right, there's always like these managers that kind of basically set the table, and then another man, like, they get canned because you're like, everything looks pretty, but you forgot the napkins, you know. Yep. So he goes, a new guy comes in, and he just puts like 3 napkins on the table, and it's like, he's a winner. So it feels like that, though, right? Like with Arteta and what he's done there.
Yeah, and like even in his first year, I mean, credit to Arsenal for sticking with him, because there was most of the fan base, I'd say 75-80% of the fan base wanted him out after that first year. Like, just more of the same. He's not cut out for it. They stuck with him, and credit to them, their title challenging team. But yeah, he does seem like the man before the man. You know, it's just like, and the biggest difference I think with him and like Klopp, like, yes, he used a lot of excuses, but like I said it earlier, like Klopp like made the fan base believe that we were good again. Like before he came around, the reason that we weren't wishy-washy is because most fans were like you and I are, who are like, yeah, you know, this is how nature, you know, we can't get mad. This is how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to lose. We're supposed to be defeated. And Klopp was like, no. Like, you guys are good enough to do this. Like, you can believe again. And I think that's the difference. We're like, Arteta has not made Arsenal believe that they can win anything, because every time they lose, he pulls the card of like, we can't win because of XYZ. Whereas Klopp was like, it made it more difficult for us to win because of XYZ. Whereas Arteta's like, it's impossible for us to win because of XYZ.
Yeah, I mean, it's the conspiratorial heights, as Trevor says. I think so. That's what Arteta brings, and it's almost like, I don't know, man. Like, it's the way he carries himself, or I don't know, because he has so many doubters, and this many years after, right? Like with Klopp, even if you had him in the beginning, it's just the way he carried himself and the way he talked and stuff like that. You didn't have a lot of detractors along the way. And after this many years of how long he's been there were 0 detractors. Obviously, part of it is you start winning things, and maybe the starting point was lower, so you went up and stuff like that. But I feel like Arteta is the kind of guy that mumbles something at the end of the sentence as he's walking away. He's like, we can do it, guys. I think, you know, and then he just like leaves the room. Like, that's the sense.
Yeah, like you can tell they don't believe it, you know. It's like they don't even believe it. I mean, you can even tell like some of the and honestly, I had to watch the videos because I always thought that they were trolls at first, and then you watch like the Thomas Edison light bulb speech that he gave, and then you do the one where I don't know if you've ever seen it, but he's like, "Everyone, rub your hands together, and then hold each other's hands, and we're creating the energy." And like, as a player, I'm not 9 years old anymore. Like, this is weird. Okay. Like, there's no other way that you can say that we're going to create it. Why do I have to physically rub my hands and touch another man? Like, I don't you know, like, that kind of stuff is just like, I get what you're
stuff where, like, look, we pick on that stuff now, right? Because he hasn't won. But if he had won something, it would be like these unique things that he did in trading and stuff.
These weird little things where, like, he brought out a light bulb and talked about Thomas Edison. It's like, and you know, it really does. It's like, because he hasn't won anything, it's weird. But it just seems like a guy who, and sometimes even the way that he plays too, is like he reads a book, closes it, and then does whatever the book, you know. Yeah. 10 ways to get your team ready for a game, written by, you know, whatever. He's like, "Ooh, this is good." He's taking notes and stuff. Where like it doesn't seem like he can do it himself, right?
Yeah, Trevor says it'd still be weird. I mean, I guess I mean, that whole thing is weird, but I think, you know, I mean, we do this. I think, like, you know, sports media definitely does it. Like, you'll see a guy, like, okay, like, let's stick to football, for example, American football, like Tom Brady, right? When Tom Brady throws a tablet, like flings a tablet on the sideline, it's always like that passion to win, and, you know, like, he wants to win so bad and stuff like that. But when a guy who has never won it throws it away, he's like, loses his composure. This guy is never gonna win. It gets kind of like twisted around. Definitely. Based on end result is basically what we do. And then once he starts winning, that's, you know, he can't complain. Composure becomes that desire to win. I mean, look at that and stuff.
Yeah, like put Arteta in the locker room of Manchester United and throwing the boot at Nicky Butt. You know, like Ferguson gets away with it because it's Ferguson. Arteta is gone. You know, like it's just the way Fergie was. You know.
He can do whatever. Work you like that. Yeah. Slide has shown that football is simple. Not to just like having players get. I think here's the thing. I think what you get was slot, and we were talking about this. I was asking the boys. I was asking Matush actually on Monday as well. Do you think the slot approach actually suits, especially a game like this, the Merseyside Derby, a bit better? Because it's more on stay calm, composure. We got this. You know, he said something like cool heads, but not cool legs, for example, in the press conference yesterday. I feel like it suits it better than the let's go get him kind of a game where, like, you know, like Klopp's high energy and stuff, because you can get caught up in some of the tackles and the drama and stuff like that. Whereas I feel like Slots is a bit more of a calm the hell down. We do our thing. We still got to work hard, but don't get caught in the emotions and stuff like that. Suits a game like this better, as long as it's not cool legs as well, I guess.
Yeah, this is
a hard balance to keep the head cool, but not.
Yeah, because this is another one that, like, 6 of one, half a dozen of another, right? Because, like, I feel like these are one of these matchups, especially because it's the last time we meet at Goodison, that these are the ones that, like, if you are not ready for the emotional, you are going to get swept away. You can't not be, and maybe it's not like let's also get sucked into the emotion, but like you have to be ready that this is not going to be like anything you've ever played, and it doesn't make any sense because Everton's relatively safe now with the teams below them performing the way that they do. They've got a new manager. They're buzzing on the recent wins that they've done. They've definitely changed the way that they played. Last derby at home at Goodison, a chance to also disrupt our title chances again for the second year in a row with, you know, nothing on the line for them. If you don't prepare yourself mentally for that aspect of it, the emotions, then you will lose this game. And I know that Klopp was like super emotional and he was probably geeing the players up, but I always felt like every time we got burned by United and Everton because he didn't succumb to the this is the Champions League final tonight. It's not, a Wednesday night at Goodison to a team that's in 17th, 16th place. This is a Champions League final.
Yeah, it is a tough balance, and I agree with what Trevor is saying. I mean, both can work as long as the people on the pitch. But we were talking about. I mean, I'll ask you. I mean, because we were expecting when we were talking about the Monday Night Podcast, based on just the minutes played over the weekend against Plymouth. The less we talk about that game, the better. But it looks like Nunez will be the one starting because he played the least minutes. And my biggest concern was putting him into that environment because he's the most volatile guy. And I mean, I don't know. As a defender, obviously we didn't have scouting or anything like that, like unless you played the school before or something like that. But once the game started, you knew who you could really get going.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And you started going at it. Well, with these guys, obviously a whole different game. They know, I mean, everybody knows, we freaking know who to go after. Do you expect Nunez to start? And do you think, they'll be like that Mourinho Balotelli story where he says, hey, you got to go out, make sure you're the only striker, don't get yellow card and stuff. And he goes out and gets the red in the 46th minute kind of
thing. This is the one where if I was Jurgen Klopp, I'd be calling Slot and be like, do not start Nunez because Pickford is going to rile him up far too. Pickford is the guy that he'll be rubbing his hands if he sees Nunez in the starting lineup, because that is just something. Because he gets extra. He's already he does the. And now I don't even know the phrase because we're not going to swear this podcast. I don't even know how to say it. But
yeah, this is going to be a tricky.
He's a jokester. He's a jokester. He's a big joke. He's a silly little boy, and he enjoys ruffling feathers. And Nunez is just the perfect target.
Yeah, a trickster. Yeah, I think that's. But when you have a target, it's a bit easier, right? A guy when Pickford does some of his things, if you can get under Ali's skin, that infamous moment where he dives after he catches the ball and stuff wind that merchant. See, this is why we need Trevor at every show as the editor with finding the right word.
There you go. Thank you. Wind up merchant. There you go. I call him a silly little boy. I think that's much better than it just shows you the lack of words that I have in my repertoire. But
our dictionary is not as big as Trevor's.
Yeah. If I can't swear, I can't. I don't know.
I think we can get away with occasional swearing because it is still marked. Not we're not. This is not a broadcast for kids. This just in. But I mean, here's the thing, though. I mean, we assumed, I should say. That it was going to be Nunez, mostly based on the minutes. And honestly, tactically, he's probably a better fit to go against them, but, not mentally, probably. But I was just looking at this, trying to pull this up. This is basically the lineup they came up with in the FA Cup game. Oh, this is the Leicester game. I'm sorry. Let me find the one that they played with. Well, that is the one they played with, right? Oh, no, Bournemouth game. Okay, let me pull that up. Sorry. Which I think is very similar. Well, yeah, I just left that on the screen, apparently. But so they did play their starting 11, whereas, 95% of our starting 11 is going to be rested.
Yeah.
Having said that, last game at Goodison and stuff like that, and that environment do you think that'll be enough of a energy boost to make up the difference? Or as this game goes on, it's going to become more and more apparent that we're rested.
Yeah, I believe that that's the case. We just can't let it get to a point where you can't overcome the emotion, because if you let Everton stay in it, that's when it becomes a problem. But this is a game where, as the minutes tick on, it favors us. The fact that it's a 90-minute game favors us. Oh, jeez. The fact that it's a 90-minute game favors us.
So in terms of result, though, okay, let's do the lineup real quick. I think this is going to be nice and easy. But Bradley at right back, based on how it sounds anyway, because I think he got only like half a practice or maybe a practice and a half for Trent. So with all the games coming up, last thing you want is Trent only playing 50 minutes coming out. So I guarantee he won't be risked. I don't even know if he'll be risked this weekend, to be honest with you. We might first see him against like Villa or something like that. But so you put Bradley out there, the rest of the back line speaks for itself. Stranded issue midfield, Mac, Gravenberg, and Soboslai, really more on right. I'll ask for just Gakpo on left and Nunes in the middle, or what are you expecting out of that?
Yeah, most likely. I mean, I wouldn't put Diaz. He didn't earn it. Jota didn't earn it. So yeah, it's gonna have to be Gakpo, Nunes, Salah. That would be my top three.
And that leaves you like a solid bench to come through. So do you think? Okay, so because you said the more you keep, it's weird, right? The more you keep Everton in it, the more you give them hope, and the more you give them an opportunity to snag something off of a set piece or a counter or something like that. But at the same time, as the minutes tick by, you're able to bring more quality off the bench, even more rested now, whereas they really don't have anybody to bring in that's gonna. I mean, they have like I don't even know who these people are that they brought off the bench against Bournemouth, for example, in the cup game. So does that help us the more?
Oh yeah.
Like, will you be worried if halftime is 0-0?
No, because I mean, there was there was a look on Sky Sports. I couldn't find the actual image, so I had to take a screenshot of the like video that I watched. But
actually,
Liverpool are so much better in the second half. So if it's 0-0, it actually plays into our hands. It's now if they score early in the second, like Plymouth did, like that's when the wave starts, because now instead of having to play 90 minutes, you're only going to have to play 45 minutes. But there's a reason Everton are where they are. They physically haven't been up to it this season, and the fact that all of them played only a few days ago, and the fact that we're relatively rested, although we did lose the game, I think it definitely all that favors us. The only thing that they have is they have nothing to lose. It's the last final at Goodison. It's a derby. It's a chance to disrupt our title chances, and that might be enough. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I say, I've been saying this for like a couple of weeks now that, I put this game in hand as an extra point and, 7-point difference. I never counted it as 3 to make it a 9. That's why if it's a 3 and a 9-point difference, I'm going to be over the moon because I wasn't expecting that. And I think it kind of lets you get away with a couple of point losses in that fixture that we just looked at. But when we talk about this, you can look at it two ways. And I know, like, I'm not in the camp. If you're an opposing team or if you're trying to build a case against slots, and believe me, there are some in the fan base who still are not like buying into it. You could say, well, when you get it wrong in the first, that just says that you're getting it wrong in the first half more often than anything else in terms of adjustments. I feel like we've seen some things where in the past when Klopp was in charge, if the first half was not going good, and if we said, let's just get to the freaking halftime, like you could kind of feel like, oh, this is not going good over here. It was so that, and, we always said, like, okay, you can straight slap him around or whatever. And Klopp has said, he never had to yell at this team or whatever. I'm sure he has, but it was more about refocusing, restarting, rebooting, right? Whereas I feel like with Slot now, the second half starts and you see like some very visible things. You're like, we're doing this now instead. Like when we're trying to break down a defense and stuff like that. How much of it is tactical brilliance in making adjustments? How much of it is, well, you got it wrong in the first place trying to fix what you got wrong?
Yeah, I think I would prefer it that way, right? Because like a lot of your influence or at least your starting lineup is based on the effort shown over the week in training and like watching certain games, because that's all you have to go off of. It's like watching some tape of Everton, how they lined up and how they play, trying to figure that out. And sometimes it's not how they come out. They surprise you, which is fine. So you're kind of making a guess. It's better that they're better in the second half because it shows like he's adapted the game. Okay, this is what they're doing. This is how they've decided to counter. Because guess what? David Moyes is also watching video from us, and he's going to try and set his team up to stifle us. And so I like it. I like it better. If the stats were flipped, I'd be a little bit more concerned because that means we're like ready for the game, and then we can't physically change with the flow of the game. And this shows me that like
it would almost look like the other manager made a move and we had no counter punch.
Exactly.
I like it as well. It's just that, you know, Klopp had Hendo and Millie do the shotting for him. That's what we missed on Sunday. Yeah, I think we just missed the leader on Sunday. Anybody really, but there was none of those guys that would kind of like do it and do it well. I guess you had a lot of guys trying to take control of the game, and it just didn't pan out. It was just ugly. So let's just put it behind. But what kind of a game are you expecting today? These guys are not normally. If it was the same squad, like that was a league game this weekend or something like that, you can kind of see this as like a reaction game and stuff like that. But most of these guys didn't play on.
Yeah, some of them didn't even travel.
It's kind of a thing. They go out there. They're like, this is how it's supposed to work, kind of a deal. Or do you think it has like a carryover effect of some sort?
I think that, you know, like as a team, you're like, you know, because you lose as a team, even though, you know, you may not have even traveled, you may not have saw any time on the pitch, it's still Liverpool lost. And that's what, you know, all the headlines say. If you don't watch the game, you don't look at the lineups, you have no interest, all the headlines are like, oh my God, I can't believe it. They're like, oh, wait, oh, yeah, all these players didn't play. So, like, as a unit, you know, there's definitely probably some embarrassment over the last couple of days in training. You know, some of the guys that, like, have been asking for minutes and got minutes and then did not play well. And that's embarrassing. So, like, you raise your level in training so that that doesn't happen again. I predict that it's going to be one of those where, like, you open up the gate on a wild animal, and it's just we got to find the flow of the game before they can get their teeth into it, basically. Because I think it's going to be, I think Goodison's going to be vibrating. I think those players are going to be geared up for it, and it's going to be, you know, Slot's probably very calm and composed, and like, this is the way we're setting up, and then all of a sudden the game goes, and you're like, whoa, and you just got to kind of wrangle them into a corner and let themselves tire themselves out before they get their teeth into it. Because if they get like you know, how quickly did they score that goal last week or the week before? It was like 40 or 50 seconds or something. It was very quick. They do something like that, and now the fans are like, this, it's a party now. Now we have nothing to lose. So like that becomes scary. So as long as we, you know, settle ourselves down in the first 15 minutes, I think the first 15 minutes are going to be, you know, Serzi might want to wait until the 20th minute to turn the TV on, because I have a feeling it's going to be very nerve-wracking.
So here's the thing, and I don't know about this, because normally I would say, oh, yes, definitely to this, that Everton will make the game as disjointed as possible, players going down and stuff like that. But I don't know. Do you think that changing with Moyes, if it was Sean still in charge, Sean Dyche still in charge, it would be, I can see that. But do you think with Moyes, it'll be like, get up, let's play, like, let's take the game to them? Or do you think he will be like, yeah, I know when to go at you, and I know when to kind of take the point and get out of here?
Oh, man.
Because the manager change, I think, kind of like makes this game a bit more interesting in terms of, I have no idea how this game is going to go. A month ago, you knew exactly how this game was going to go.
Yeah, you've changed managers' mentalities too, because Sean Dyche is not he's not a great manager, but he does a job in certain, like, he saved Everton for basically 3 years in a row. And now they've changed. That was the goal, was to save us. And we don't need to get 3 points a game. We can get 40 points in a season and be totally fine with that. We're fine. And now we've got a manager who's like, let's do something with this team. Let's play a little more adventurous, and let's, you know, go for it. And he's a smart manager, and he'll know, all right, now I got to take the foot off the gas. Is it going to be too late? Usually I feel like the difference in class with these two teams, by the time he figures that out, it'll probably be too late.
I hope so. I almost like hope that I know it's a lot more nerve-wracking when a team is coming at you. But even when we were playing Spurs and stuff like that, when we were up, I was like, yeah, come on over. Like, take a corner kick. I know it's a lot more nerve-wracking when that ball is being crossed in, but it's almost like we're going to be more dangerous when you're attacking than when we're attacking, actually, kind of a deal. So I feel like that's going to be the biggest difference. A month ago, I thought they're just going to park it there. They're going to spend, 20 minutes just laying around. Just pig for laying on the ground is going to be 10 minutes of the game and stuff. I just feel like Moyes will be a bit more of a let's freaking play, and that kind of plays into our hands. I hope.
Yeah.
As long as, because I think there's still a huge call difference. You stop, what's that dude's name?
Beto?
Nah, I mean, I guess him, but NDI, is that?
Oh yeah, he's he's really
He's a
showing
player.
himself.
I mean, that's
Yep.
the guy to watch for. As long as Gravenberg, like the core and stuff, like tracks him back and stuff. I think the biggest danger is coming from like NDI. So if you stop him, and in some ways, maybe it's better that Bradley's playing this game than Trent on that side. I think you can stop them from attacking bar set pieces. And I mean, our midfield should be able to win this midfield easily, especially rested.
Yeah, I hate to do like a war analogy, but I'm obsessed with like the history
Yes, you are.
of wars, and
so I'll allow it because I know you are.
so one of the things that you could argue is that if the golfing class is as big as we think it is, and they don't sink their teeth into it, and Liverpool definitely control this game, then you'll find that the Everton team will revert to old tactics because it's comfortable. And then that becomes a situation where I think it'll be fun for us if that happens, because you see that sometimes is like, we've got this plan that we've never done before, and it's fine when we're winning, but when our heels are back, then let's just go back into our little shell, because now this is scary and I don't want to be out here. And I know what David Moyes said at halftime, and I know what he said all week, but like, it's more comfortable that I'm back here. Yeah. And hopefully we'll see that.
Well, we'll be here for the pre-match once the lineups come out. We don't expect a lot of surprises for the lineup, but I guess we shall find out and see. So we'll be here for the pre-match, but let me get your predictions on the way out.
Oh man, I said it on the Monday show. I was still really annoyed at Plymouth. I'd be fine with the tie. I know that that's going to anger a lot of people, but I think 7, like a guaranteed 7, because like as you had said, everyone keeps saying 9, but we haven't done that yet.
Yep.
And 7, especially when like we play them with 4 games to go, still having to play Arsenal, 7 is still a formidable point. So I'd be okay with a tie. I think we're going to overcome this one. I think it's going to be 3-1, and I'm sorry to say, Serzi, I think Everton score first.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm going with the Hunchin special too. I'm going with the 3-1. I'm sticking with it. I actually expect a more of a. Hopefully they come out a bit open and like let us play our game. And if we do, I think that's when the quality difference should show. And I agree with your first 15-20 minutes though. That's going to be rough because I think they're gonna start on the front foot just because of the crowd and the environment and stuff like that. So slowing things down, I think we will be slowing things down in the beginning, trying to take control of the game. Yeah, I would. I'm sure they have TVs there, or just watching on the phone at the ER or something. So if something happens, you're right there. Just fill out the forms ready to go.
We're gonna have to be those. I don't know if you've ever driven in mountainous areas, but they'll have those like runaway truck lanes. That's what we have to just corral this runaway truck onto one of these lanes where they just kind of fall into a net, and then we can scoop them up and.
Yeah, it's going to be, and it's a huge game, man. And I really think I've been kind of waiting for this game to be games even if you're up by 9 points, and like you're saying, they have to come to Anfield. On top of that, with the Havertz injury today, that's a huge, devastating blow to Arsenal mindset overall. I know this weekend's fixture is easy for them, but still, it's like psychologically, it's too much. And I don't know. Actually, let's take a look at that real quick. Don't want to get too ahead of ourselves in case we don't win this either or whatever.
Yeah, but, I mean, we could be talking in 2 weeks and be like, yeah, it was.
Because they play Saturday, crack of dawn game, looks like, for us at 6:30. We play on Sunday. I was hoping it was kind of like the other way around where they might go into their game 12 points behind.
Yeah.
Like that. Whereas the disaster scenario is you don't get what you want out of this game, and we go into the Wolves game
3 games
by only like 3 points or maybe 4 points or something like that. But
let's
fingers crossed. We'll be here for the pre-match, so do tune in for that once the lines are up. Have a great 2-3 hours over here. Rest up, get ready for the game, and we'll see you guys then.